All right, hello again, everybody. This is Derek, and I am coming back at you with another Wargaming and miniature video. And in today's video, we are going to be doing some painting. This is my weekly uh, live stream where I work on various projects. And in today's project, I'm going to be working on. Here, let me see if I can bring up a center display and let you see this. There we go. We're going to be working on the second New Hampshire regiment, which I've got right here. And then we've got the 3rd New Hampshire regiment is going to be right there. And I'm using the Don Troiani's, well, I don't know if that's Don Troiani, but it was labeled like that on the internet, but I'm not sure if this is actually Don's. Yeah, DT. Yeah, maybe it is. I'm not sure. But these are the ones that we are going to be using in today's painting. And then the 3rd unit I've got sitting over here. I can't click that for some reason. There we go. And then this 3rd regiment right here is actually going to be a militia battalion. And it's going to represent the 2nd Connecticut. All 3 of these battalions participated at Freeman's Farm, which is the first Saratoga battle. And should have everything ready over here. Okay, I got my brushes. I got my paint laid out, the ones that I'm going to be using on these regiments. And that should be it. That should be good to go. All right, so I don't have the chat in my face. I have the painting schemes in my grill, in my face. I painted, which I think I've uploaded, a couple of different British units. I think I did the Light Regiment and the 21st Regiment. I just finished those. So that finishes all the regiments on the British side. So the British are basically ready to go. They're 100% in the books. I'm going to say 99% in the books, ready to go. And if I decide to go ahead and do it, I'm not really sure if I'm going to even bother. But there are a couple of additional regiments, or they're really just companies, but I can combine them into a regiment. There are some Canadians on the British side, as well as some loyalists, but they don't really participate much in the battle at Saratoga, so I don't know if I'm gonna bother with them. Just FYI, I wasn't sure what I was gonna bother with. Okay, so I got a couple of different colors here. I've got Brain Matter Beige, which it's not white, it's beige. And then I've got Buff. And most of the militia are going to have buff or brain matter beige pants. Let's go ahead and start off with buff. And then half of the second is going to have buff. And the third is not going to have buff at all. I might do a couple of them in buff just to give a little bit of variety. But they're primarily going to be green pants. Okay. So that's what we're working with right now is the pants. And I might have to go back in later and touch them up. Specifically after I do their stockings. Yeah, okay, you can. The mic looks like it's working. I don't need a very fine tip brush. Because this is basically going to be broad strokes. The early colors are always going to be broad strokes. Now there are some references that show the second New Hampshire with buff waistcoats as well. And then there's other source material that show them with red waistcoats. And it looks like the majority of the New Hampshire regiments, that was the uniform was a red waistcoat. Their collars and cuffs are also red. I think red was the New Hampshire color. Yeah, these guys have like stockings. And I might be painting this off camera, but it's not really zoomed in and the camera's not really ready for that. Now the drummer in this case has got a hunting jacket on. But that's okay. The Continentals were not always in uniform. I mean, you know, there was they diverged. Okay, bear with me. A lot of times when I'm painting, I don't talk because I'm thinking about what I'm doing. You know, the whole multitasking thing. And I just got finished streaming Skyrim. I just finished that a couple hours ago. I did a playthrough a couple of years back, and got pretty, pretty, pretty far into the game. Well, I say about 20th level. I don't know if that's far in the game or not. Um, I saw somewhere in one of the mods that said, because I like to mod my game, make it look more visually appealing. And I saw in one of these mods for one of the followers, it said it can level up to 60 with the player as opposed to 50, which is what the normal limit for the followers are. So that kind of tells me that maybe I wasn't really that far in the game. Because I think I was at 20. And it took me a long time to get there. Well, for one reason, I'm not in any rush. I'm not trying to finish the game overnight, you know? Not a speed run. Okay, I'm going back to this. I'm making buff pants the default, not the beige. So I'm doing like 4 figures per base in the buff for this unit. Yeah, no, this is kind of just a casual, no, just a relaxed painting conversation with each other, and basically I'm just trying to get these knocked out. Okay, so having said that, I'm going to I know we just got started, but I have to take a short break, and I'll be right back. Um, keep each other company. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back, and just want to let everybody know I've got my packages all shipped out, ready to go. So, so I don't have to worry about that anymore. Okay, back to buff pants. Now these are Old Glory miniatures, Old Glory 15s. Was that 19th century? The company. Blue Moon and Old Glory is my go-to for 15 millimeter models. There's a few other brands that I've tried, like Peter Pig and Stone Mountain. What's that other one? Rank and File. Quality Casting. There's a few others, but I think that Blue Moon is probably the best, and Old Glory is a close second. Yeah, cost wise, I think Old Glory is a better price, but like I've always said, you get what you pay for. Blue Moon's not that much more expensive. Old Glory is like, I'm just gonna, I don't know the exact number, but I think it's like 46 cents a model or something like that. Where Blue Moon, I think, is like 55 cents a model. Now these guys are supposed to have green pants, but I'm going to put a couple of them with buff just to, not to make them ragtag, but just to make them kind of have a slight variety to them. One thing about Blue Moon also is there's almost no work that needs to be done on the models. You know, you take them out of the package, you wash off the mold release with soap and water, and they're good to go. You just start working with them right then. There might be a few things that you need to do. Obviously, you're going to want to look over your model just to make sure. But I've not had much work to do on Blue Moon. That's Napoleonic, not Napoleonics. That's American War of Independence and their 100 Years War. Now, I haven't tried any of their other product lines just yet, but I will. Almost all my Roman legions are Old Glory. Looking back on it now, I think I want to do some Blue Moon Roman legions. Okay, now these guys are mostly civilians called up for a couple of months at a time. I'm going to give them all different color pants. Blue, green, white, buff, brown. So I think one guy per stick can have buff. Now I primed these guys with a light gray primer. So all the colors should come through as close to realistic, um, close to what the bottle says, without having to darken them down or light brighten them up. Yeah, these guys I'm just doing random. I'm going to do a lot of randomness on the militia. A focus will be brown. On jackets and even their hats are going to be mostly black, but there's going to be a few brown ones in there. I watched a guy's video. It was the history of hats. And he pretty much focused on the American War of Independence, the round hat, and how it became a cocked hat. Yeah, so that was a really cool video to watch. I was digging it. Now some of these guys should probably have buff tops as well. I'm going to pick out a couple of guys and just give them a buff jacket. Again, we're going random. And because these are civilians, they don't really have facing colors. So you don't have to worry about the collar and cuff being a different color. Okay, that one looks good. But I'm going to pick out one of these other guys. And I'm going to paint his yeah, this guy will work. His undershirt, or whatever they call it, the waistcoat. Paint it buff. There you go. I probably shouldn't do jackets and waistcoats before I painted the rest of the figure, but since I have the color out and I don't want to waste the paint because I mixed more than I needed. So I'll just have to work around it and be careful when I get to that stage. And as you probably noticed, I'm using AK buff. The Vallejo buff is just a little bit too white. It's almost good for like a bone color. Yeah, there's no restriction on what you call your color. Yeah, there's no international law that says you have to call this bone white. You have to call this buff. Or if you want to call it buff, it has to look exactly like this. As a painter, I wish all the paint companies would get together and have a universal color. I know that there's an RLM for paint colors, but not everybody abides by that or follows that. Yeah. Last guy. All right. So all the buff is done. I could probably put buff away and not bring it back out. Just clear it off my list. Buff gone. Okay. I'm going to do some brain matter beige. I use that from my army painter. And again, okay, the top paint that kind of dried on there has to be peeled away. I wonder if I need to poke a hole. That's why I keep a paper clip at my desk so that I could just drive it into the hole. Yep, it needed it. Okay, let's try that again. It almost feels a little thick. When it comes out, I'll find out. I've used this recently, so I don't know why it would. Unless I ignored it the first time. Yeah, it's pretty thick. Which is okay. I can thin it out with water. But while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to pop the top. Yeah. Matte medium from Liquitex. Okay. Okay, just a little bit of matte medium. A little bit of water. Put the lid back on. Now we'll shake it up. Oh yeah. Still pretty thick, but that's okay. It's going to be way better. Now you can do the matte medium to thin your paint instead of water, or in conjunction with water. It'll also make your paint, if it's got a little bit of shine to it, that matte medium will take that shine right off. But what I like to do is apply a dull coat at the end anyway. So I don't really concern myself with that. Okay. So 2 out of these guys are going to have a beige color pant, which is not white. It's like an eggshell. It's off-white. I almost don't need to do that. I could probably paint them white or just leave them with this light gray, because when you apply the wash, it's going to dirty them up anyway. But I'm a stickler for the technique and the colors, the proper colors. Because these are all going into my personal collection. Right? This is going into my army. And if it's going into my army, I want it done right. Well, even if I was doing a commission, I'd want to have it done right. But there's something in the back of my mind that says I also need to get it done fast, because that customer paid me and he wants his miniatures. Even though I deliberately try to slow down to make sure that I get everything right, there is that little niggling thing in the back of my head. But when it comes to my own personal miniatures, I take my time. And that's one reason why I hate speed paints. First of all, they're almost always the wrong color. Speed paints are like perfect for the fantasy player, the sci-fi and fantasy crowd. But for any historical gamer, they're not the right paints for you. I'm going to say that not 100%, but there's a good percentage of historical gamers that are button counters. You know, they want to make sure that you've got the right number of buttons on that uniform. Or, you know, you paint if the cuff is supposed to be a maroon and you painted it a sapphire, they're going to complain. You know, they're going to say, that's not supposed to be that bright of a red. It's supposed to be a little bit lighter than that. Or it's supposed to be a dark maroon or something. You know what I mean? That can exist in a historical game. It can't exist in a fantasy game because fantasy is pretty much imagination, whatever you want to put on there. So there's no arguing of colors. I don't play with anybody that's like that. You know, if there's, as soon as I determine that you are that kind of a person, I stop inviting you to my games. That's not what gaming's about. Okay, I was like, why are most of these guys still white? Oh, it's because they're going to be green. These buff pants really stand out against the light gray. I'm really happy about that. Yeah, and I'm getting ready to be that guy. But I can do that when I'm talking about my own figures. So, doing research on the 3rd New Hampshire, I came across this guy who painted up his miniatures, and he does a really good job of painting. Don't get me wrong; those paint jobs are like really good. And he's got a lot of good reference material on his blog. But I looked in on his paint job for the 3rd Regiment, and he had painted all their collars and cuffs. He painted them all with white facing colors, right? And I'm like, okay, so the regiment had white facing colors. But then I did a lot more research. I don't stop at just one reference, right? I keep looking. And everywhere else that I looked, other than that one guy's site, The 3rd New Hampshire was red facing. The entire New Hampshire contingent had red facings. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, didn't matter. They all had red. The 2nd New Hampshire is the only one of them that had blue jackets. All the other ones had green jackets. And the 3rd New Hampshire had green pants included. So I plan to paint mine with green jackets and pants and red facings, because that's where the majority of the references said. Now I am going to have a few deviants in there. But it's not going to be many, as you already know. All right, so now on these militia, a few of them are going to get this color for their undershirts. And only if I can see them. And also only if I didn't paint their pants like that. I guess it doesn't matter. I guess I could paint even if the pants are painted. But it didn't come out that way. Okay, so I think this color is pretty much done as well. We can always go back to it. I know where I put it. Let me take a sip. Now the green, where is my deep green? Is this it right here? It might be it right here. Yeah. It's probably supposed to be this color. But I have this color here called forest green. I like forest green. It does dry a little darker than that. But when you wash it, you're going to bring the color down. Plus, I have this thing called hunter green, or chasseur. You can't really see the green, but like that. This deep green and this hunter green. I'm not sure which. I use this on my French chasseurs because it's actually called chasseur green. I bet you this is the color I should use, so I'm going to set these off to the side. I'm going to use this color for the green. And it's going to be on all of these and some of these. Added some water just to thin it out a little bit. A very small drop. Okay, now clean this brush. Mainly because when I mix the paint and the water with the brush, it has a tendency to get close to the flume. And I definitely don't want that. Okay, now I can pretty much just slap this on anywhere I go. Okay, it's... Yeah, anywhere I go. Now the drummer is going to have a different colored jacket. They did a reverse color. I think that was a holdover from the British. But if I get it on the socks, it doesn't matter because I still have to paint the socks. And if I get it on the waistcoat, it doesn't matter because I still have to paint the waistcoat. But I am going to try to avoid those areas. Mainly because I'm going to paint the waistcoats and the facings. I'm going to paint them red. And red goes on top of this light gray a lot better than it does green. It will go on top of green, but maybe not as good. I need to check something. Okay. Yep. The lapels and the collar is still green. It's only the waistcoat and the cuffs that are red. That's good to know. That makes the jacket a little bit easier to paint. Okay. Now this guy had an epaulette, which is probably silver or gold. I just painted right over it. Because silver or gold will go on top of green a lot better than it'll go on top of the light gray. Okay. Yeah, I think the drummer's jacket is going to be green, a yellowish color, I think. Even though yellow is not part of the, that's not their turn back colors. The drummer wouldn't wear red. There are some American regiments that wore the British red, which resulted in some friendly fire. But I noticed that none of the units that I'm painting for Freeman's Farm, none of them had red jackets. Maybe some of the units involved in some of the other battles. Okay, wash will fix that. I almost forgot this guy's supposed to have green pants. He's the officer. I made sure the officer was in the right uniform. I thought painting this green on their pants and jacket was going to be like super easy. Well, it is easy, but it's time consuming. It's just a couple of spots I'm trying to avoid. The waistcoat and the cuffs. That includes when I do the pants. Okay, my stomach's got a little bit of a grumble going on. That's why I had to take a break a few minutes ago. I had to run to the bathroom. I think I've learned something about my body. It doesn't like milk products. I had a protein shake this morning and it gave me diarrhea. And it seems like whenever I have, well, it might also be the protein. It's a new brand for me anyway. And I might have to stop using it. Mainly because of the milk and also the protein. Maybe it's one or the other. I guess I could experiment. I have some nut milk, like almond milk. I heard that wasn't good for you. But if it doesn't cause me diarrhea, then I think it's good for me. Or better. Or indifferent. You don't need to know all that. I'm sharing. Like I said, we're just casually just sitting around painting figures, chit-chatting. And also, a wash is probably going to fix a lot of my mistakes. All right, well, that's one stick. It took a moment. Took a hot minute. So, I wanted to let everybody know, especially those that might be new to my channel. If you're watching this live or if you're watching it on the follow-up, I just want you to know I do have a sale going on right now on my eBay store where I sell miniatures, either new or painted. Well, even the painted ones are new. They're just not still in the box. Oh, no, let's not do that. Let's not advance. I just want to do the fronts of all these guys right now. Well, I'm kind of focusing on just the front. It's a buy more, save more sale. If you buy one item, it's not on sale. But if you buy two items, you'll get a discount on both items. Up to, depending on how many items, I think it's four items, I think. I can't remember. But if you order up to 4 items or buy up to 4 items, I think you get 20% off. That's why I'm calling it March Madness. Not because of basketball. It's just I'm mad for selling it at 20% off. And if you were on my store news update, which I try to do at least once a month, but sometimes more often, I talk about some projects that I might have been working on that I finished, or miniatures that I painted for the store, or what kind of supplies I got in that might be cool to know about, and then what kind of product I might have gotten in. And in the latest store news update, we talked about the sale as well. I try to make sure that I mention the sale anytime I have a news update, because that would be prime news for the store. Now, there is no terrain that I need to make for, that's not true. Okay, I almost lied. But there's no terrain that I absolutely have to make to play Freeman's Farm. I have enough of everything. Buildings, town sectors, fences, fields. See, I've got enough of all of that to play Freeman's Farm. But there's a few things that I would like to work on to make the experience better. Like some wheat fields and some rivers and some S fences, or whatever they call those things, where the fence goes back and forth, back and forth. They look more like W's to me, but I think they're called S fences. Okay, we'll get back to that. So there's only 5 regiments that I need to do before all the regiments are finished. the New Hampshire regiments, the Connecticut militia, and then one Massachusetts regiment. I think it's the second Mass. And the Canadians. There are Canadian units that fought on both sides. There are Canadians that fought with the British, and there are Canadians that fought against the British. I'd love to learn a little bit of history about that to see exactly what's going on there. To find out why that happened or, what caused it. But at the Battle of Freeman's Farm, there are Canadians on both sides. There's also Americans on both sides. They call them loyalists. They're loyal to the crown. Which I can respect that. You know, they had their beliefs and their convictions, and they thought it was morally the right thing to do. Not be a rebel. Still got a stick left. I'm running out of paint. Might have to mix some more in here. Okay, now we're just doing the pants in the front. Avoiding the small clothes. Or trying to avoid it. Wow, I missed a big spot. Going back and double checking, is always a good thing. And the Swiss battalion that I put on the store, I've already sold. Hell, I think I've already shipped it out. Um, that went pretty quick. Maybe I need to do another Swiss battalion. Because when something sells that fast, I think it's popular. Doesn't mean it's true. Might have meant that that one guy just really needed it badly, or he was, he saw it and wanted it. I put another Swiss regiment up there. It might not ever sell because the one guy that wanted it has already got it. You know what I mean? But there was multiple Swiss battalions, so I could do a different one. Like the second battalion, which I think was at Waterloo. Somewhere. I mean, I don't know where, but it's listed as having been there. Okay, that's the second green stick. Before we go on to the third, I'm going to add a little paint. My neck is starting to hurt. Bending over like that. Yeah, chasseur is the French word for hunter. Right? So this is actually hunter green, but it's listed as chasseur vert. And vert is green. Okay. I might have dropped a little bit too much water in this. That's okay. All right, green. I'm gonna do it the same way I did the last time. Ooh. Yep, that's too runny. So we'll thicken it up a little bit. With another couple of drops of green. Because I am going to do some of these guys with, whoa, green. As well. Okay, that feels better in the pot. Let's see what it looks like on the figure. It's got to have the right consistency. Oh, it's perfect. Flows right off the brush the way I want it without it being runny. Now, normally I paint with a YouTube video playing in the background. Just something to, you know, that I can listen to while I'm painting. I might be that for you. Are you painting? Or are you doing something else? Just got me on while you're working on a project of something? Inquiring minds want to know. I say that because I miss my headset being on my head. Listening to some podcaster complain about Houthis or something. Now, I'm not sure about the turnbacks. I'm going to have to take a close look at that, but I think they're also red. But they might be white. But what I've been doing is just painting over them. And I'll come in later with the proper color. Because I doubt the turnbacks are also red. I'm sorry, also green. Now I told the guys that were watching me on live stream this evening, this morning, um, that I might jump back on some more Skyrim later this afternoon. And if they don't catch me live, they can always catch the recording. I guess you call that the VOD. See, now once I get enough units to do Freeman's Farm, I'll be able to do a lot of other scenarios. I'll just have to paint up, like, let's say it's Princeton or something. I can use a lot of the same models to represent the different regiments, even if they're not exactly the right regiments. But if there's some type of unit or some unit that I'm missing, I can just paint it up at that time. Like maybe the 17th Dragoons or something. And then once I got them painted, then I can move on to like an even different battle. So basically, once I get one battle worth of miniatures, then I can just start improving the collection, one regiment at a time or something, until I've got enough to do any scenario. Now, I've been thinking about working on specifically all of the Saratoga campaigns, all the different battles that took place, like Bennington and Hubbardton and stuff like that. And that way, I would have everything, basically focus my attention. on the Saratoga campaign. And if I go to play a battle in the South, like in the Carolinas or something, I'm I'm not going to paint up a whole bunch of new units just because the uniforms changed. I'm going to use the same uniforms, the same miniatures. Okay, I think the 3rd New Hampshire's green is done. Okay, I'm going to paint this guy's coat green. I don't know if anybody had a green hat. I don't really think that was a thing. You know, style wise. I think they were almost all black, but with a few brown ones in there. Oh yeah, that's right. No collar cup changes. Okay, he's good. This guy's gonna have green pants. I'm not gonna give anybody green waistcoats. That's not gonna be a thing. Mm, okay. One guy with a coat and one guy with the pants. Or both. Green socks I could do on one of these guys. I could do that. Yeah, I'll do it on this guy. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna give this guy a green coat. I thought about giving it to the drummer, but he looks like he's got a military uniform on. I think I'm just going to paint him blue. I probably could do it red, because that would really mess people up. See, unfortunately, the militia battalions changed so often. They didn't have any specific uniform or anything like that. They were required to bring their own musket. Kind of like Minutemen in that regard. They were basically draftees that had to bring their own gun. But back then, everybody had a gun. I mean, it was commonplace for everybody to have a gun, a musket of some kind. For hunting and home defense. Highwaymen or whatever. So they said that you were a fast shot if you could get 3 shots a minute off. Right? That's, loading and ramming and putting the ball in there, putting the powder in there, and priming your flintlock or whatever it was. Imagine a guy with a bow and arrow. How fast could he reload? That's why I never understood why guns overtook bow and arrows in the early days. Later, when you got breech loaders and you got, or where you got revolvers, I get that. Now, if they shoot much further, which they did, but not significantly. And they probably hit a lot harder. But to me, that doesn't make them better. Okay, so that's the green spread out. That's the green focused. These guys aren't going to have any green. And I think that pretty much does it for that. Okay. Hmm. I'm going to paint this drummer with a red coat. Now I'm not painting the red collars or cuffs or small clothes on these guys just yet. I'm going to do that later. But while I'm thinking about it, now these guys' coats are going to be like a sky blue. What is this? Deep sky blue. looks like their turnbacks are red. So maybe theirs are red as well. I'll have to look into that. Okay, it doesn't want to come out. Oh, it's coming out. Okay, just really thick. Oh, that's like really thick. That's got to be way too much water. Okay. I soaked up too much of the water. There we go. That's probably not enough for the figures. But we'll give it a shot. We'll test it out. Just the jacket. And it's okay if you paint over the straps because white goes on top of any color. And I'm going to be painting their straps white. Okay. All right. And I think that red will sit nicely on top of this blue color because it's a very light blue. It's called deep sky, but and deep normally means a little bit darker. If this is deep sky, then I wonder what sky blue looks like. Okay, double checking. Just making sure I didn't miss a spot. I'm glad I checked because there's a couple of spots I missed. Okay. I'm doing the second um, New Hampshire in round hats because a lot of my research led me to the majority of the regiment, not all of it, but the majority of the regiment wore the round hats instead of the cocked hats. And some of them did wear the cocked hat. But I thought it would just help differentiate the unit from the others if I just give them the round hats. And originally, when I bought these figures, I bought the wrong ones. I bought round hats in hunting shirts. And I wanted them to be in, the standard coat. Hunting shirt would probably be okay, but I didn't want that. I didn't want that look. I wanted them to look semi-professional. Now, oh yeah, I just thought of this. The militia, I think, are a mix of brands. They're not just Old Glory. I think they're mostly that might be Blue Moon. Okay. Last stick. Okay, the paint's starting to get a little thin, but we're on the last 3 figures, so I'm hoping I can stretch it out. Okay. Those guys look good. Double checking. Okay, that looks good. Now on these militia guys, I was going to give one of them blue pants. I think I'll give it to this guy. I mean the light blue pants. Okay. And that's it for the light blue. Put it away because I'm not going to use it again. There we go. All right, guys. Well, it is 11:11. So what I'm going to do now is take a break from painting because I've been sitting here for 2 hours. And I'm going to probably eat something. And then I might jump online and stream a more Skyrim or something. I'm not exactly sure. But let me adjust the camera. Let me turn on autofocus. And I'll bring up some of these figures just so you can see kind of the progress that they're making here. Okay, I got autofocus turned on. So yeah, so here's some of the figures for the second. Like the guy on the end there's got buff pants Actually, the leader does too, and all three of these figures have buff pants. You can't really see it. I don't think the focus is coming in just right. I wonder if there's a way to get it to autofocus better. I don't think it wants to autofocus. And here's the green guys. Oh, there you go. There's a focus. And got some green pants and green jackets. I know it's early on, so it's going to look a mess. You know, so. But what I'm going to do is once these guys are all fully painted, I usually do an American War of Independence project update, and I zoom in real close and we get a good look at what I've done. Yeah, after these, I only got 2 more regiments, and then we'll be ready to do a battle, I think. All right, I'll catch you in the next one. You guys take care.